Some thoughts about Season 3 on both the Orville and Discovery after this. Hello out there, I'm the Oldest Nerd, and we have been doing some thinking about the Orville and Discovery, and I have some opinions, and they're my opinions only, not necessarily of anyone else, but I am looking forward to, of course, Season 3 of both the Orville and Discovery, although it seems to me that the Orville has more places to go in the situation that we found them at the end of the final episode. In that, after the war had been fought and they go back into the past and presumably correct history, they bring you back to what some people have thought is a reset of the Orville's original timeline. And I don't think it's so easy as that. They spent too much time talking about how unpredictable time travel is and how that ever messing with it never really sets it right again. And I have a feeling that it gives them a very good opportunity to change some of the dynamic of the Orville. Now, they go back and they make sure that Kelly has a second date with Ed. Now, that means that we still have now Ed and Kelly on the Orville and the crew as we know them. But because of the change in the timeline, I believe that what we're going to see is some subtle changes, and that might be for the better. They spent all too much time pining after one another as to whether they were going to get back together. The first season, it was Kelly getting Ed the command so that they could rebuild their relationship, and he wanted nothing to do with it. And then in the second season, it's him trying to rebuild the relationship, and she wanting nothing to do with it. And it's all too much soap opera for my taste. I think, though, that they could, in the new timeline, maybe still be married. Or they could have a more amicable divorce and have gotten into their positions so that their personal problems between the two of them are things that don't have to be talked about anymore. With the new threat from the Kalons, we have a different kind of relationship between the Union and the Krill, although it's likely to be Cold War kind of stuff like the Federation and the Klingons for a long time, or they might be closer friends, and the Kalons being the big bad, and other things can go along. So there are some possibilities. By resetting the timeline, they have given themselves an excuse to fix some small problems that they have with the show. Not big ones, but just small ones like the relationship between Ed and Kelly. It was always kind of a diversion away from the actual plot of the story. And we could do without that. We could do them with being very good friends, or we could have them a married couple. There's somewhere on television there's a rule that you can't have a happily married couple. As soon as you do, you got to break them apart somehow so that they can all date other people, and that's never worked out very well. I mean, it's caused some one-offs like Ed having the relationship with someone that turned out to be a Krill, and Kelly having a relationship with the school teacher who has now disappeared into the nether regions of the Orville. And I think it's more interesting to focus perhaps on other characters. We have not seen, while we've seen long episodes about Isaac and about Dr. Finn, and of course Kelly and Ed, and even one recently about Gordon, we haven't seen much about John Lamar. We haven't seen anything about Yaphet. We have not, in fact, some of the characters they introduced, Jason Alexander playing the bartender, he was once or twice, and we haven't seen him again. I'd like to see more of him. They could add some more characters to it. Now, I have heard in places that the reason that we haven't heard about a renewal for the Orville is because there is negotiations going on now that Fox has sold its movie division to Disney, and Disney is making a decision on whether to continue producing the Orville, and Fox Television probably wants to hold on to it, but perhaps wants to talk about money. And the contract is probably being negotiated now, which is probably why there is a delay in announcing the third season. But I have very little doubt that there will be a third season. It's too good a show to let go, and Fox already has a bad reputation for canceling good shows right before they get good and started. So we are expecting this is not going to happen with the Orville. They don't want to lose their one big moneymaker, which is Seth MacFarlane with Family Guy and the other shows that he's done. Now, with Discovery, I have much more of a concern. A lot of people said that the problem with Discovery was the fact that they were a prequel and therefore had to work around canon and were violating canon, and none of this is supposed to work. And now that they had, through the entire last season, developed the time suit and shot the Discovery 930 years into the future, that now all is going to be great because they'll be in the future and they'll be able to seek out new life and new civilizations and go where no one's gone before, blah, blah. All well and good, but I am concerned that it's going to be too much like Voyager, in which they were kind of looking to get home. And a fly in the ointment here is that we already know that Michelle Yeoh is going to be the star of a new series on Section 31 before long. And so since she shot into the future with Discovery, how is she going to get back to the 23rd century to be part of Section 31? That leads me to believe that Discovery is going to spend the entire season 3 looking for a way to get back to their own time somehow or other in order for Philippa Georgiou to make it back to her own time so she can be the head of Section 31, or at least part of Section 31. I like having her along in this next season of Discovery because she'll certainly add some interest to the stories. You always have to have somebody who can stand back and make snarky remarks, kind of like Q did. There's some people who are saying maybe Q will be back, but I kind of doubt that. It looks like a good opportunity to come up with new alien races and new technologies. They've got the sphere data, the entire sphere data on the ship, which means that they've got 1,000 years of technology that they can use to develop. So we're looking at that to see just where they can go from there. But my concern is that they might become rather moribund. So that is my concern with moving on into the future with Discovery, that it may just get boring. Here we are doing Discovery, but with a skeleton crew in a post-Federation universe, in a situation that does not have really any of the useful backdrops that Trek has always had, of there being an entire fleet, of there being a federation, and all of this. They're just kind of out on their own, and I think it was part of the problem that we had with Voyager long ago. So that's my concern. It's not going to stop me from watching, but I do have some concerns about where Discovery is going to go and whether it's going to stay there or if it's going to come back. There was some hint by Ethan Peck that we might see Spock again, and either they're going to have scenes in the 23rd century and scenes in the 31st century or whatever it goes to, or they're going to be coming back to their present time and we'll see Spock again. But I don't know. I'd rather see a show with Spock and Pike, which has been strongly hinted that it's going to happen, which means that it probably will. But once again, they're probably in contract negotiations, so it'll be a while before we hear whether they greenlight that or not. So that's what I'm thinking. At best, I believe that Season 3 of Discovery is going to be just what holds you there until the Picard series starts, and the cartoon series on Nickelodeon, and the cartoon series that's going to be on CBS All Access, and the other shows that are being considered the Section 31 show eventually, and whatever becomes of the Spock and Pike show, if it actually does, or does it become a short trek? We don't know. So a lot of questions to be answered on this. So I'd like to know what you think, what your questions are, and what your predictions are. Please leave it down in the comments, and please subscribe. If everybody who watched us subscribe, and it's a bad word, subscribe makes it sound like it's going to cost you something, and it doesn't. All you do is click on it, and what it does is allows you to know more or less when we're going to have a new video out, and by adding to my subscriber numbers makes me able to do more things with the channel. So I would appreciate very much your subscribing. It costs you nothing. It is no obligation, and it will do us a world of good. So I thank you to all the people who have subscribed, and I hope to hear from you soon. And until then, don't go far.